So let's talk about home. We're not going to be able to directly wrestle with your question or the intention behind your question immediately, because there are different ways of looking at what a home looks like. Look at our good, sick friend over there. Sometimes you do have a physical home, a structure where you rest your head, and sometimes within that particular space you look in front of you and there is your companion. But your body has turned against you. And it doesn't matter who's in your life, it doesn't matter what kind of place you live in, if it's a mansion or a 2-bedroom or a tin hut. You just feel bad. You've lost something. And so, you ask your companion for some food, hopefully some soup. You stay in bed for a few days until your illness goes away, and then you feel better. And now you look at your structure differently. You look at your companion differently. You're a bit more thankful about the fact that you've understood a thing or two more about how valuable being healthy is. Sometimes you're 16 or you're 20. You have great parents, great siblings, a great job. But for some strange reason, you're just restless. And nothing fits. Everything is just a circular thing and you're just a square. And you try to insert yourself in all these different spaces, but you just don't fit. And you come to realize that you're emotionally homeless now. And your father, your mother, your people come to you and say, Danielle, you should be a bit more thankful. And the truth is you should, on some level. But on a different level, you look at your life and you say, yes, I have everything, but for some strange reason, I just don't know where I stand. Sometimes you go home and your father is drunk and your mom is somewhere absent. And home is supposed to be a comfort zone, a place of safety, solace, meaning, belonging. It's your tribe, it's your cult. They protect you, they give you morals. Then you go in there, the house is a mess, your mom is a mess, your dad is a mess. And then you begin to ask all sorts of questions. If these people didn't want me, why did I have sex? Why am I here? And then you feel homeless. Sometimes you get to be my age, maybe a little younger, of course, about 45, 50. You've been in the classroom for about 30, 40, 50 years. You just don't enjoy to hear the tone of your own voice anymore. You look at students, you feel bad for them, first because they're young. You also feel bad for them because you understand the complexities of learning anything valuable. You also feel bad for them because they live in a political environment that is just poisonous, whichever way you want to look at it. You look at divorce rate, suicide, mental illness, and then you ask yourself, just don't want to do it anymore. Don't want to be married, don't want to have kids. And you suffer from this, what we call a midlife crisis of sorts. It's a really sad place to be. You struggle for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years to make a sense of your life, create for yourself a life that's worth living. And then all of a sudden, psychologically, something hits you from nowhere. It's what Freud would call the unconscious. You have no access to it. All of a sudden, you just wake up and life just craps all over you, and you don't even know why. So, this idea of having a home and feeling homeless, I suppose you could consider it this way. There is a physical home that deserves a good amount of consideration. There is an emotional home that's also very, very necessary. There is also an intellectual home where there is purpose, there is meaning, there is a sense of belonging. And then there is, for those of us in this class who have some religious components to us, there also needs to be a religious home. Remove any of those components and you're lopsided. It's like a car that has 1 or 2 flat tires and just won't move. As for most things in life, there's a good amount of illusions, or as the Hindus would say, a good amount of maya that occupies our mental space. You don't much understand love, you don't much understand relationships, and yet something about your organism gravitates you, pulls you towards, or pushes you towards another human being, and you fall in love. And that person becomes your home. Without them you won't survive. Without them, you're restless. Without them, you're confused. Without them, you're angry. In relationship, there are two very, very important components. Well, three. One is you have normal days where you're just sitting there watching TV, and that's fine. Then there are moments of expansion that you look at your companion and you have butterflies, you want to go somewhere and steal some flowers and give it to her or him. And then there are moments of contraction where you just miss them so terribly. In moments of expansion, you have entered the Garden of Eden. Paradise is at hand. In moments of contraction, you clam up because you miss them so much. And when contraction, expansion are not there, things are relatively okay. You survive. In moments of contraction where you miss your companion, but they are physically not there, you have no idea what to do with yourself. Their formative years is from the age, let's just say 0 to about 10. Kids need to come home and see both parents all the time. They need to know that when they cry, their mom will just run towards them. That once in a while when they want ice cream, the father says, well, here it is. We want to play basketball, here it is. That there is safety, security, trust. In the absence of that, what you have on the inside is what they call trauma. That I trusted two people, supposedly adults. At every corner, I realize I'm being betrayed by these people. I don't know why. Am I not loved? Am I ugly? Am I unintelligent? Am I this? Am I that? So the forces of the outside impact you psychologically, and then you self-punish. Is it because of me that my parents are divorcing? Is it because of me that my father ran away? If you watch the last Rambo movie, on Rambo, there is this girl, for some strange reason, at the age of 15 or 16 or 17, she's missing her father very much. So she goes to some place in Mexico, knocks on some door. This man opens, and the father looks at her and says, what are you doing here? And he says to her that, I never wanted you. I am not your dad. I don't want to be your dad. And what you realize is that this is a woman, a young woman who's gone to Stanford, to Yale, is a CEO of a company, has lots of money, has all sorts of things. I mean, she has a nice physical home, but emotionally, she was repressing, and eventually it just kind of explodes, erupts. And she goes looking for answers, only to realize that the answers given to her are not the ones that she was looking for. So she even feels more homeless, because later on in the movie, she goes out with her friends, she gets drunk, and of course she dies, but that's for a different day. I think if you were to look at home as a symbolic component, a symbol, where it is a place where you find meaning, where you find comfort. It's your cult. It's your identity. It's your history. You can look at the walls and say, yes, my father and I did A, B, C, D. Yes, in that room my sister did, and I did E, F, G, H. It's a place of history, and you are able to connect yourself with that history. In the absence of that, you are what they call an emotional nomad. There is no solidity about you. You're all over the place. And at different stages of your life, your definition of a home changes. Initially, you want your parents. That's your home. As you get to 15, 16, 17, friends become your home, because they're the only ones supposedly who understand you, not your parents because they're jerks and nerds, okay? At the age of, say, 18, 19, 20, you go to school and you find a class or an instructor to be your home. At the age of 25, 26, you're looking forward to a degree, a diploma from some school. That becomes your ideal. At the age of 30 or so, you want a companion. The idea of a marriage becomes your home. At the age of 35, the idea of having a family becomes your home. And then raising your kids. Your husband, after that, you just dismiss them, right? Then it becomes your kids. Then, just in case your kids disappoint you, and all kids do, you find yourself, your life, your time to have been wasted by your children. And then you feel somewhat, homeless, but because you're a parent, hope still lives inside you. It's shattered to some extent, broken, but it still lives on. And then let's just say none of those things happen. Your kids are like saints. Then you realize, despite having lived a relatively good life, your body begins to betray you. You're sick, your knees, your back, you're this, you're that. And then your body makes you feel homeless. At a certain point, you realize that you've gotten a little too old and you're somewhat lonely. And then someone puts you in a nursing home. And that's the modern day stuff. Nothing wrong with that. And then your kids come and visit you like once or twice a month if you're lucky, if you haven't crapped all over them, which these is very difficult not to do, And so that is how you should define what a home is.